Well, hi, Up with People World. I am Donna Reed. I traveled in Cast A 1976, and I'm in a very blurry cactus lounge, although that thing behind me kind of looks like a cactus, don't you think? So I am here today with Grant and Gretchen Axton, and they are apparently sitting in their backyard. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
And Grant, you and I met, I think, on the Board of Governors a number of years ago, right? It's hard to keep track of how many years. But Gretchen, I just met you for the first time in Scotland this summer. So share with us when you traveled and where you guys met. So tell us about that.
Well, we're a Cast A people also. So whoop, whoop, Cast A. Years after you, we were 87. And so that is where we met, is on the road in Tucson, Arizona.
Your first year that you traveled.
First year.
Yeah, we both only traveled for a cast year. We did not do staff.
Okay. So I'm turning my volume up. I feel like I'm loud enough, but I'm not hearing you as well. So Cast A 87. And were you both, so you're in Southern California now. Where are you from originally?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Sorry.
So I was born in California, but when I traveled and Up with People, I had interviewed in Omaha, Nebraska. So at the time I represented Nebraska, even though I'm a Californian at heart. And
all right. Oh, that's cool. And Grant?
I was born and raised in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So that was prior to Up with People moving to Denver. So, but there was quite a few Colorado alumni there at the time that were very supportive of new students that I learned after the fact, after I got accepted. But yeah, I'm originally from Colorado.
Nice. And so you met, if you were like us, you just went to a board one day and you found out what cast you were in, right? And you were like, oh, okay, I'm in this group. And so tell me, because when I traveled, people weren't supposed to be dating. Was it still like that when you guys traveled?
It was discouraged. It was not that you couldn't. And we actually did not date on the road.
No.
We were not a cast couple.
No.
Okay.
We were good friends. There was a group of four of us that kind of hung out together, my best friend and her best friend. And so we did a lot. But I actually was kind of chasing after her best friend because I thought she wanted to date her. Unbeknownst, she was dating my best friend later in the year. So, we kind of hung out together, but didn't really find each other yet until we got off the road.
Several years later.
Yeah. Really? Okay. So tell me that. Tell me that story.
Well, that's a fun one. So I moved out to California after college in 92, and then Grant followed in 93. And Grant was our cast representative. So he was sending letters to the cast. He'd send out a letter saying, I'm getting ready to send out a letter, send me any updates. And then he'd consolidate the updates and shoot out a letter letting everybody know what everybody was up to.
Right.
So that's the only correspondence we had from the time of getting off the road in 88 until we saw each other in 93. So he moved out to LA, and there was a fairly large group of us from 87A here in Los Angeles at the time.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
We had a friend come down. Dale Shaver came down to visit. And at the time we had, Sandra and Holly and
about six of us.
And so Grant, being the cast representative, said, hey, we've got somebody coming into town. Let's all get together and do dinner together. So we all got together for dinner, had a great time at dinner, laughed and told stories. And we're like, hey, we're all living here. We should hang out more often. And let's do this. Let's go out dancing. We danced Up with People. Let's go out dancing. So
sorry, that makes me laugh.
We scheduled a date with everybody, with the group, all six of us or so, put it on the calendar. And I was looking forward to it the whole time and telling my coworkers, and they were looking forward to hearing about it. And that night I got a call from Grant saying, everybody canceled. So do you still want to go? I'm like, yes, I had this on the calendar. I was planning on going and looking forward to this. So Grant and I went out dancing, just the two of us.
Oh,
So
fun.
Everybody else bailed. So we went out two-step. It was back when country two-stepping and line
Yeah.
dance was fairly popular. So we went two-stepping and shut down the place and
Oh, that's
went back to my apartment, started perusing through photos, and next thing we knew, the sun was coming up and we were hungry, so we went out to breakfast. Then we're like, this was fun. Let's do it again. Right? Should we invite the others? We're like, let's do it again.
Oh, what fun. That's a great.
So then, so
Who
then
needs those other people?
I told him, I said, I think it was just it was just a
ploy.
a ploy, right? I think it was just a ploy. I think you really
Oh, Grant, you never really invited all those others?
all canceled, right?
Never do that.
That is so fun. So
we were still just good friends. So we weren't dating, but as we finished our Up With People year, we were the first cast to go to the Soviet Union. And one of the saw when we were in the Soviet Union was professional ballroom dancers, and they were young people. And that kind of inspired me that after I got off the road, I went and got a job at a Fred Astaire dance studios, and I taught ballroom dance for a year. And one of the things that I always got saddled with, because nobody else wanted to do, was teaching country western stuff. So I was pretty proficient in country western swing and two-step and waltz and all that stuff. So when she came, she was one of the dancers in our show, and I just taught her everything I knew at country dancing. And so we had a great time dancing the entire night and just had a fun. So
I just followed his lead the whole time.
Oh, that's very, very cool. What a great story. Okay. So when I traveled, we didn't really have a name for the show. We were the end of the bicentennial, or whatever. So what was the name of your show? Because by then I think they were naming them.
We were Time for the Music.
Time for the Music. Okay. And was there a specific song or two from your show that you loved?
Well, I always felt our show was not one of the better shows. I think of us wanted to sing songs from other shows.
That's funny.
The Roads Came Together and Peace.
Yeah.
Can We Sing a Song of
Song
Peace?
Peace.
So we had some of those those were some of my favorites. But I think some of the kind of lesser known songs, like Maybe, Time for the Music is always good.
Is there a song in your show that you just thought was ridiculous?
Yeah,
Sure.
several.
Oh, it's okay. So that's fun because I thought there were a few in ours, which I have shared with Paul Caldwell. So it's not a secret. So what?
Getting cut when we went to Europe anyway, so I think they realized that they were not good songs. For me, the one I really didn't care for was The Load, right? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
The Load.
The load's getting heavier. Sorry, Pat Murphy.
Oh. That's funny. Well, when I had the conversation with Paul about I've probably said this in 3 or 4 videos, so I should stop saying this. But when I had told Paul that one of the songs I Don't Want to Rule the World, which I just wasn't a fan of, he said, Donna, during that time in the 1970s, there were a lot of people that wanted to rule the world. And so it was interesting to hear from the creative perspective why the song evolved, whether it becomes one that we sing every year or don't sing every year, and then I don't know about you, but we all had the audience participation one. Did you have a audience What was what was that, Grant?
We did a whole clown act, and we did a magic act on the show, and I was the ringmaster that did this whole big magic act. We had a magic box and made some people appear magically. She was one of the people who appeared magically out of this box. But we were we had international clowns, and so we had several different clowns from different parts of the country, and they would come on and do a quick little trick, and then we sing a song, and we would invite all the kids up on stage, and eventually I would pull out one of the kids and ask them their name and how old they were and if it was their birthday, and yeah, just kind of did a whole shtick around bringing these kids on stage to march around the stage and do whole.
That's fun. I mean, that was ours was It's a Memorable Tune. I don't know if you ever heard that through the years, but if you learn It's a Memorable Tune, you kind of almost know the whole song.
Well, we did Froilica too, you know, the
Yeah,
Belgian.
Froilica Vrienden, yeah.
We
So,
did.
where'd your tour take you?
Mostly through the Midwest,
Okay.
Nebraska, Kansas. We did
Texas.
Texas. We did a month-long tour of Texas, and then we did some Canada, Saskatchewan, Canada.
Okay.
And we did do some Tennessee and Kentucky and
Kind of worked our way east.
a little bit. And then second semester we did the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark.
Okay.
And then we took a train down to do a private show in Switzerland. And then we went over to the Soviet Union.
Okay. Well, your first semester sounds like kind of our whole year because of being the bicentennial. There's an old song, I think it was a John Denver about Toledo, Ohio. I spent a week there one day.
My favorite.
Yeah, Texas was, how many more towns can we go to in Texas, right? And what's funny for me now is that I have a brother that lives in the hill country outside of San Antonio, really close to Kerrville. And we performed in Kerrville, but as an 18-year-old on a bus, you just got there and got off the bus. Like I didn't know where it was. So when I found out how close he lived, I was like, oh, look at that. Things you learn. So
I really traveled. My extended family either lived just inside the Colorado-Kansas border in Sublette, Kansas, or Utah. So the furthest east I had ever been was Sublette, Kansas, which is about, 60 miles inside Kansas. So for me, I found it really interesting. I had not seen any of Texas or Nebraska or most of Kansas. I hadn't seen the United States. So I was impressed to just travel my own country. I hadn't seen much of it. So it was cool.
Well, and I think I just did a interview with John Fidinich, and he was talking about and Mona has said it's about the places becoming the faces and how we go for the people, and those create the memories. Now, when you're 18 or 19, or I don't know how old you guys were when you traveled, but you saw your name, you got the list, you saw you were going to go where you were going, and you went, oh, that's going to be fun, whatever. And so I think that it's later or after the fact, or once you start having the experiences, that you realize that everybody has a story, and every place you go has a story, right?
And cause I spent a lot of time in the Midwest, that's where my dad was stationed a lot. And so, yeah, I was probably disappointed a little bit when I first saw it, because I was expecting to
probably nothing. She was crushed. She cried to her parents. I'm going to spend the whole tour in the Midwest.
I was 19 at the time, but it really, they were places in Nebraska and Kansas that I had never been.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It did at that time become about the people, about the community service there, and the different experiences that you can have in places that might have been or not been before.
So tell me, Grant, I have an idea of what you do. You have one of the most interesting jobs. When we were talking about backgrounds, I was going to tell you to put something up from the television show. And then I thought, oh, it might, I don't know, maybe it's not good for an Up With People background.
Probably not so much.
Tell the alumni world what you do, and tell me a little bit about how you got into that career.
I am VP of production at Renegade, which is now wholly owned by Hasbro. So actually, I work for Hasbro now.
That's fun.
And we just started our 10th year of Naked and Afraid, which is a TV show on Discovery. And if you don't know the show, it's sending two people out into the wilderness naked, and they have to survive out there for 21 days. And from that, we have spawned multiple variations of that. We have a Naked and Afraid XL, where we send 12 people out naked, and they have to survive 40 days, which originally XL was Roman numerals 40, but that never really caught on. People didn't realize that that's what it meant.
Yeah.
And then currently we're shooting a show called Naked Afraid Last One Standing in South Africa. That's kind of a
Oh, that's where you guys were before I saw you in Scotland. You guys were in South Africa, weren't you?
Right. You check on a regular Naked and Afraid, but yeah, it was in that same general area where we're shooting the current show.
Okay.
So I do all of the Naked and Afraid franchise, but I just did a show last year for CBS called Beyond the Edge. We had one on Nat Geo called Something Bit Me. I have one on USA that's called Snake in the Grass.
Wow.
So usually overseeing about 5 to 8 shows at any given time. And then I have a team of people that works on each show. So I oversee all those people. So
you work on the kind of shows where people get together and they talk about whether they would ever survive. And there's one that Caleb and Adam watched where they're dropped off someplace. And I watched a little bit of it up in Alaska. And literally the person that I think is going to survive usually falls or gets bit or hurt the first day and they're gone. Like they've been there 4 hours after all the auditioning. And I just know I would not survive very long. So thus I will never even try.
The thing that surprised us the most was I'm surprised that the women actually often do better than the men. They're much better at dealing with the mental aspect of it. And you gotta, what we always say, you gotta embrace the suck. Because by day 4, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're dirty, you're cold, and you kind of just gotta get over that hump and embrace the suck a little bit. So
I've never heard that phrase. So when I write this up and I put the phrase of the day, I'll have it. But you know what? I think that there might be something to what women, just who we are inherently, and maybe it's the whole childbirth thing, whatever, that you do. Yeah.
Having to do so much already for those that we care about. And
I really didn't think I was heading down this path. My degree is in film and television production. I was going to be a big time Hollywood director. And somehow I fell into reality television on a show called Blind Date back in the day. And with this same company, and they rolled me on just different. I did another show that went a couple seasons called Excused, and I just stuck with this company. So I never knew that I would get into the finance side of reality television.
So where did you get your degree? Where did you go to school?
I was on the school tour there for a while, because once you've been in Up with People, you can't just go to one place. You have to go to multiple places. So right after Up with People, I went to Ole Miss for a year, decided the South was not for me, and transferred to go to school with another Up with People castmate in Montana at Montana State University. And she had a spot in the condo that her parents owned, and she was a good friend on the road also. And so I moved in with her and 4 other girls in this condo and lived with 4 women, which who knew that was going to be training for life, to have 2 girls and a wife.
That's true. Yeah.
I got my life training at Montana State University. And
what a riot. So we'll go back to that. But Gretchen, what about you? Did you go to school, and what do you do right now?
Yeah, I went to the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas. So I'm a Jay.
You're a Jayhawk, that weird bird thing. Yeah. Okay.
The opposite of Grant, which actually was a great lesson for our girls. Because we told them there are some people that know what they want to do and they make plans and they go and do it. And that was me. And he was the one that was on the college tour. So I had already applied for University of Kansas before I traveled for Up with People.
Okay.
So I had gotten accepted and gotten a deferral so that and they just had a place for me when I got done traveling, and I was planning on studying music therapy. So I went to music therapy, and then brought me back home to California was doing an internship, because you could do that wherever you wanted. So I came to California thinking I'd just be here for the 6-month internship, and then I'll go back to the Midwest to raise a family, but realized I was California at heart. So I stayed.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I've been working did music therapy in a psych hospital for a while. And then right after Janelle was born, our oldest, started my own business so that I can have kind of just control my own time. And so I started a business called Wonders and opened up a studio here in Torrance. And I did some kinder music classes. And then I also had some music therapy clients that I would do at the studio as well. And now I'm teaching at several different preschools throughout the community, just doing music and movement, and have
Nice.
a music therapy client that I work with. So, yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, so we touched on Janelle. So for the world that doesn't know it, Grant, you alluded to the females. You have 2 daughters, right?
Yep.
And so how old is Janelle this year?
Janelle is
25
right now. Yes, 25 and a half. Yeah. Almost 20.
Okay, and Gina, right? You pronounce it Jean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. 3 and on Friday.
Yeah, this week.
On Friday.
Oh, so happy birthday. And did they both travel on Up with People?
Kind of. Gina traveled as a student for
Right.
B17 and A18.
Okay.
Janelle decided to go to college, and then after college, she then went on PR staff.
Oh, got it. Okay. So
January 2020 on PR,
oh,
did one complete city, and then was in Canada doing her second setup when the pandemic happened. So then,
oh my gosh. So I don't know if the girls have watched any of the interviews or how many you guys have watched, but I interviewed the young man that was the cast director when that happened.
okay,
Li Kung, I think is his name, Likun.
Mhm.
And that was a fascinating interview, being a Chinese person who
Wow.
was traveling, whose parents were telling him what was happening in China. And I wasn't sure how he would react, right? And his reaction, okay, for me, I bet I was thinking, oh, he's going to be like so sad. It's going to ruin his career, his chance in the States. And his reaction was quite the opposite. It was like, we need to stop this before we all get sick, which I thought it was just interesting for what I thought might go through his head. And, his mom and dad were talking to him, telling him. So what an interesting situation. Wow. Wow.
On his side.
Yeah. Okay. So your girls probably grew up with People. I mean, I don't know how they couldn't have, right?
Pretty much every reunion they were, because I was there with the board, they were there at the pool. So
that's what and so, for some of the kids, there was the group that they're like, we're not doing this. We've seen enough of it. Do you feel like your daughters always thought, oh yeah, we might do this sometime, or what was there?
No, I think, well, because being here in LA too, we had a lot of people come in and visit. They had to give up their room quite frequently. And so I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, it wasn't until Gina ended up going, because the camp Up with People was just kind of
okay.
And so in 2014, we're like, just go and try this camp. And, after that, we'll just leave you be and just go and try it. So she went to camp Up with People, and we went to go pick her up. And of course, when we surprised, well, no, she knew we were coming. She knew we were coming. But of course, she was all, campers crying when the parents showed up. And then apparently when she hugged Grant, she just leaned in and said, oh, I get it now.
Aww.
I get it now.
Because these were her best friends that she only knew for 3 weeks. Right. And how could I ever leave these people after 3 weeks?
Right.
That's awesome. So that's where our cast reunion is there. This I leave Saturday. And it's funny because everybody always comes here, right? Because we've had Tucson and Phoenix and all of that. So I have it pretty good from that perspective, from a travel perspective, but I like going back to see the leaves change color. So I was like, yeah, let's go back. Well, getting to Harrisonburg from Tucson, oh my Lord, it's like bing, 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 and I am just fingers crossed. I'm going to Denver. I'm spending the first night with Caleb, and then I'm flying Allegiant to Tennessee, where I'm going to connect to Retta and Beth and drive with them, hoping all goes well in this world of miscellaneous, who knows what, right?
So good luck.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I need the salt and the knocking wood, the prayers, the whole thing. So
did 3 years ago. So
yeah,
she did two years as a counselor. No, 3 years as a counselor, or as a camper, and then went back as a counselor for a 4th year.
2 more years.
2 more.
She did 2 more years as a camp counselor.
So she was
People years.
a pure blood at that point, and we knew she would travel.
Yeah.
And
Of pure blood. I love it. I love it.
Nope.
Okay. So Grant, you've been cast rep for your cast. And do you feel like, I don't know, a lot of our casts back then had 100 to 150, depending on when we started. They may or may not ended with that many. What kind of a connection do you continue to have with your cast?
at 123, I know that because I hand wrote many envelopes in the beginning stages of keeping in touch
Back
with them.
before all the social media stuff. Yep. Okay.
We got to the point where I could print address labels, so that made things, but still stuffing and licking. And eventually my family became my assembly line when I would do.
Love that.
So
Before emails.
Yep.
I became a cast rep before it was a thing, before it was
Mhm. A title.
and it was kind of just something that I did because I kept statistics on the road, and I thought it'd be
Wow.
send out a letter to everybody after we got off the road saying, here's some statistics that I kept track of. Well, then they sent me back a whole bunch of letters saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. So then I compiled that and sent it back out, say, hey, this is what everybody's doing. Well, then it kind of just started this back and forth. They would send me stuff, I would compile it, I'd send out this packet of, sometimes 12 pages long of letters.
Wow.
They would send me, I'd copy them off, do 125 copies, send it internationally to all.
Wow.
So I was very fortunate that early on we stayed in pretty good touch. We also, the last 2 weeks in the Soviet Union, we were completely together as a cast because we couldn't do PR in the Soviet Union. So we had all the last 2 weeks together in the Soviet Union. So I think those two things have kept our cast together really, really well. For years, I had only lost 2 people. I think I'm now up to maybe 4 or 5 people that I'm not sure where they are, and I've kind of them. I just got a letter back. So what I do now is I use a thing called send out cards, and helps me automate sending out birthday cards every year so that I can send an actual physical card to them. One, to let them know I'm thinking of them, but 2, if they move, then I get the card back and I know that they moved. And then I can via email or social media and say, hey, your card came back. I know you moved. Tell me your new address.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to kind of keep in touch with most of my cast. And it's worked out.
I use send out cards with my clients. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We're down below the 10 minute mark. So this is, as Sheila calls it, the speed round, which never gets speedy. Tell me if there was a food that you either learned to love on the road or learned to hate. Gretchen, you go first.
Well, I did try rattlesnake once, but I got sick the next day, so I never tried it again. Did not like fish and had picked herring in Denmark and loved it. I still haven't had it because I think they prepare it different, so it was a special thing then. I think the only one that I really kind of started to really like and continue occasionally to eat is in Texas. My host family had a ruby red grapefruit ranch.
Oh, okay.
And I did not like grapefruit at the time, but that was really good and really sweet. And they gave our buses like big boxes when we were leaving that day. They gave us huge boxes of grapefruit. And then my mom actually ordered from them annually for a number of years, probably until about 10 years ago. She would get grapefruit from them. She'd order.
Nice. All right, Grant, what about you?
My big memory is that I remember calling my mom and said, I tried this really cool new thing. It kind of looks like a tree. And my host family, she's from Vietnam. She had married a serviceman, so she was Vietnamese, and had served me this cool new vegetable that I'd never heard of before that looked like a tree. And she said, yeah, that sounds like broccoli. I said, yeah, that's what it is. And she said, yeah, I just hate broccoli, so I never served it to you kids growing up. So I didn't even know broccoli existed in my world until I had
like a tree.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Learned a
All
lot.
right. And from if you've any place you've never been that 2 of you really want to go, that's on your bucket list. I know you just did that time in Scotland, it was really fun to see you there. So
I would say New Zealand.
Yeah.
And Australia would be a bucket list place.
Africa was a big one, but we checked that off this year, so that was good.
Yeah.
Because Janelle up in Southeast Asia that looked amazing. I want to do that.
Very cool. All right. So in the last couple of minutes that we have, we don't know what the future of Up With People looks like. And so if you were going to talk to, another 17-year-old who's looking, or 18-year-old looking for that gap year, and Up With People exists in some way, shape, or form, what might you tell that kid to think about as they make a choice about what they're going to do for that little break they have?
As though they were traveling and Up With People?
If they were going to go, if Up With People was an option, comparing it to couch surfing or, whatever.
It's a very different program when Jeanna traveled, because you go for a semester with the option of staying for a year, as opposed to us. We
Right.
stayed, you only went home if you
Yeah.
got kicked out.
Yeah.
So a different mindset, I think, a little bit. It's more like a semester at sea. And what we told Jeanna is just say yes to everything. Take advantage of everything. No should not be a part of the vocabulary while you're in Up With People. Try a little bit of everything, because when are you ever going to do that again? So I would probably use the same advice again.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes me think you tried haggis that night we had dinner, didn't you?
And
And I did not. You both did, and I did.
Hated in that.
I know. I need to go back.
Part of his food, I took a bite because he said it was
Yeah.
okay.
Did you like it?
I did like it. I actually ordered it a couple more times while we were there.
I
So
don't think I tasted it. Did I? I don't think. Yeah.
you
I
missed
can't,
it.
but you know what? We were still being careful because of the whole COVID germ you know what, too. So barely we're seeing each other, let alone me eating food off your plate. So
I haggis at all while you were there?
no, because I was only there a couple of days. I got to tell you what, though, after you were there, shepherds were there and stuff. Boy, is it a place I want to go back to. I really do. And I had that brilliant experience at that bachelor party, which still just makes me
all of the beer in Scotland, so you need to go back and finish the rest of it.
Okay. All righty. We need to end it. We need to wrap it up. Thank you two very much. I greatly appreciate it. I love seeing your smiling faces. Gretchen, it was nice to meet you in person this summer and to see you both. And I love sharing the Up With People stories. I just think it's super fun, and we'll see you again up the road, I'm sure, right?
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye, you guys.
Bye.